ahead and get the stream shared. Alrighty, good morning, everybody. Good morning. We don't have a whole lot of time till the start. Yes, sorry, a couple minutes late. I apologize. Good morning, everybody. Hey, it's been such a long time since I've seen you. I changed my phone number. So I don't know if you can text me or, through Discord anyway. Send me your new phone number. Okay, so I'm gonna sound super excited today. I apologize, everybody, but yesterday, you know how we were talking about taking all those Success 10 puts, um, the TQQQ 73 calls. They're all in the money right now. Those went from being basically insanely cheap to now they're all pretty much in the money, um, which is awesome. And we have very good bullish structure throughout the majority of the market. And it's very likely we do see our upper Bollinger Push today. We were supposed to get it yesterday, but we did have the news out of Iran, which kind of, made the day weird, right? We had Nvidia running really hot, but, overall the market did pull down slightly. Yeah, it's nice to see you again. It'd be nice to text you again. So yeah, thank you. Okay, let's go ahead and look at QQQ here. Just kind of want to go over everything really quick. We have 3 minutes. We do have continuation of this cup structure from yesterday, which is actually really important. And this completed a full cup all the way up to the top. Now, what this did is this fully invalidated this potential head and shoulders that was building. Okay, so bear structure currently gone. Now, we do have a little bit of bear structure in here to contend with because obviously we're at the top of cup. But on the 5-minute time frame, we are at the lower Bollinger. Okay, which means that that's call range. So if we get our push down, that's calls on QQQ. Let's check semiconductors. So I'm going to delete that structure just because I want everybody to be able to see exactly the same thing here. So on semiconductors, we're building this very nice cup all the way back up to this 509. Not only do we have that super nice cup, we have this very good inverse head and shoulders here. That should definitely take us up. We're above this dangerous liquidity range, so the expectation should be we should close that cup. From the top of this cup, we can then look for bear structure, but that's what we're looking for on semis. Now on semis, we don't have a entry in terms of calls or puts just yet because there's this small cup closing. From that small cup closing, potentially a handle forming and then heading upward. We're gonna go over the VVIX and everything in a couple minutes here. SPY, same ordeal. I just wanna still pretty much the same expectation. Um, We have this very large cup, so we need to push into the lower Bollinger here on the 5-minute time frame before we enter calls on SPY. Yeah, I am up a ton right now. Oh my God. Already a five-digit day before the day started, so I'm gonna sound super happy. That is awesome. Okay, now I want to look at the HIG because yesterday we did see a little bit of selling on the HIG. Now today we are seeing the buying, which is good. We do want to see this head up all the way basically towards this 80.33 though. So this was why I took those HIG calls yesterday, when it dropped below the 79.99. Okay, let's check our VVIX here. It is elevated. It's at 94.14, so slightly climbing. Potentially will give us our entries into some of these SPY calls, or just calls overall. Looking for this inverse cup to close here so that we can get that lower Bollinger push and um, you know, take calls from there and head upward. Yes, I'm still holding some of those 9 puts. Um, I think there's actually a decent odd that we can see these, or we can see Success run below the $9 mark today. So pretty much all of those calls that we're holding um, should really be held. And let's go ahead and ignore the drawings for a second here. So I want to look at the daily time frame. Sorry if it sounds like I'm shivering. It's got to be like 60 degrees in here. So give me a couple minutes after I identify some things. So upper Bollinger is at the 738, and we have the 5 mile at the 728.48. So basically 728.50. So we're going to go to our 5-minute time frame and mark those out. So 728.50, it's literally right there. So either we will push down and fully invalidate this cup to retest the 5 mile, or what did I say it was at 30 or 738? Or we're going to push into the upper Bollinger today. That upper Bollinger push could take us potentially all the way to, that 738, all the way to the 741 type range today. So I'm going to edit this note because it's kind of the same thing, just a little bit higher of a target. So if we're going to be testing the 5 mile, remember the upper bounds is at the 730, so we would have to drop essentially $5 to test the 5 mile, or we have to gain roughly, $3 for that upper Bollinger upside. So we will be taking a very close look at the VVIX throughout the day. I do expect the VVIX to pull downward today. I was expecting that yesterday as well, but we did have some of that, bad news out of Iran where they were trying to manipulate things a little bit. But some of those drawings from yesterday. But that's what I'm expecting out of the VVIX here. Um, Especially when we're seeing it on the 5-minute time frame being within that upper Bollinger. It does give it the room to start heavily pulling down. We're seeing oil prices pulling down pretty large today with very, very good bearish structure on top of it. Now, some might say, okay, that's a cup probably forming a handle. I disagree. I think that this is actually forming an inverse cup, which means that there's going to be a lot of equity weight over the next few sessions. Okay. Um, really want to not miss this entry. I think I missed my entry. I missed my SPY entry, but kind of okay with it. I have so many calls right now, it's absurd. Like if we get the upper Bollinger push that I'm expecting today, today could be like a really, 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 really huge day for me, let me tell you. Yeah, you should be holding all of those positions still. Let me tell you, the upside today is massive. Okay, today could be a very, very, very huge day for many people in here. We just need to confirm that that's exactly where we are going. We're seeing a lot of good signals though. We're seeing Bitcoin forming bullish structure. Again, I don't really care about Bitcoin too much, right? But it does trade a lot with how the other equities trade because it's so institutionally owned. So we have very nice structure. We have cup formed with bear structure at the top of that cup, which is exactly what we're looking for, with potentially bullish structure at the bottom, building that handle to the upside. And that would take us up to roughly that 82,000 or 81,000 mark for today. Okay, so there's some room within Bitcoin contracts if anybody wants to trade those. I'm not going to be doing that just because I'm so locked into everything I got right now. I mean, I have so many different positions going. My portfolio is absolutely going nuts right now. I can't. I'm just so excited. I'm sorry. Having a very good day. Good morning, everybody. So basically, when we were just absolutely dumping yesterday, right when we started dropping below the um 730 range, so around that 729, I really just started absolutely loading into the TQQQ calls, into the SOX S puts. Um, again, my average on the SOX S puts are 0.13, and currently the contracts are at 0.42. The TQQQ calls, I have a 0.25 average, and they're currently at 0.87. Um, doing super good, and they should probably grow probably another 140 to 200% on top of that. So it's kind of a big day. If we're really going to be seeing the price action that I'm expecting. Semiconductors here, really trying to reach for that 508. Let's check our volatility. A little bit of a spike in volatility. It did drop down to, what was it, the 93.79. Currently at the 94.03. Now on the 5-minute time frame, technically the first call has paid out already. That has been validated. So the first call is already paid out, meaning that this entry, we'll just mark that as a good entry. I'm not saying fully exit this call, but from this 20 mile range, this does give us the ability to drop back down again. Um, and I think that'd be completely reasonable for that to occur, especially because on the 5-minute time frame, with this being the top of a cup, we do expect a little bit of downside. Okay, so potentially we could be forming that right shoulder, hit downward a little bit. Is this arrow right there? Hit downward a bit, and from heading downward, start targeting that upside once we build some bullish structure at the bottom. So I'll be using this next push downward to enter into the calls because I did not take the calls earlier. I was too busy going through everything. But when we push down to the lower Bollinger again, I will be taking calls at that point. Now, semiconductors, very close to hitting that range. So again, this range is basically right at the 509. Um, change this to day one because yesterday did not fully complete. So we're looking for the 509 to hit. From that 509, bearish structure, head down slightly, finish the cup handle into potentially, a major high of the day. Good morning, Kev. Expecting us to push to the upper Bollinger. Based on the daily time frame here, we have tested the 5 mile as of a few sessions ago, which means that technically we don't need to push down to that level for another 2 sessions. Um, you know, even though we can, but by technical standards, we don't need to. We've already done that test. Um, and from that test, either we were going to push into the upper Bollinger or we were going to start pushing towards the 20 mile. Now, we're only a few dollars away from the upper Bollinger, while we're still a whole, $22 away from the 20 mile. So, very, very likely we get our upper Bollinger push today. Um, I don't really see the case for pushing down to the 5 mile. We had our data come out very dovish this morning, which dovish generally tends to lean towards the side of rate cuts. Okay, rate cuts being more so bullish for the market, even though it's not exactly a bullish thing overall. Um, the market will absorb that as a bullish sentiment rather than the rate hike sentiment that has been going on. Um, and I've been talking about that sentiment for a while now, where I have not been in the boat with the higher inflation taking place. Uh, Usually oil volatility brings very, very short-term higher inflation, but usually it leads to a deflationary cycle. So far this is all kind of playing out exactly how I'm expecting that to go. Um, this part of this oil cycle, we should be seeing pretty much all-time highs on our equities. Um, that's a very, very standard thing for the oil cycles before they completely collapse. So, usually that's some sort of good sentiment, good news, runs the markets up, but then the deflationary push happens. Um, so yeah, today should be a bullish day, is what I'm saying. Our ADL on the 5 minute time frame is looking fairly strong as well. Now again, this is just the 5 minute time frame, so that can't shift. But the ADL is telling us that money is pouring into this fund right now, and quite a bit too. Um, so let's go ahead and look at HIG and the VVIX and everything, and just make sure, excuse me, and just make sure everything is on correct path. So HIG still doing fine. Again, I do want to see it pushing up towards this basically 80-33 range towards the end of the day. Um, let's look at our VVIX. Basically still hovering around that 94 range, but it is slowly pulling down. Again, every penny this pulls down is really important, but inversely, every penny it moves upward tells us a really large story. So we're really wanting the VVIX to be defeated today. Um, being defeated for me is pulling below this basically 90, $91, $92 range. Um, so we have a lot of downside on the VVIX here, but we still have some structure to contend with prior to that, especially like on SPY, semiconductors, QQQ. Pretty much everything's forming a cup. There we go. Yep, got our level. So we got that 509 on semiconductors. So now we're just going to see some downside, and we should be expecting downside throughout SPY, QQQ, pretty much everything right now, um, to build this handle. Okay, from the bottom of this handle, wherever it takes us, that's going to be a major buying level for the day. So positions are just up an absurd amount right now. Sorry, I don't mean to say that to brag or anything. I had a really bad month last month. My hand was broken and everything. I couldn't even hold my phone. I could barely trade. So having, oh, hold on, there was just a massive share sell here. Oh no, never mind. It wasn't as massive as I thought. It was just not loading properly because of my screen. Yeah, today's looking very upper Bollinger push. Now, even here, we're seeing this head and shoulders becoming invalidated. Which is awesome. This is exactly how we want the day to go. We're forming a cup here. From this cup, build bearish, or yeah, from the top of the cup, build bearish structure. Sorry if you can hear my stomach growl. I need to nibble on something in a second. You have to remember I'm on the West Coast, so it's only 6 o'clock here. Um, I know many of you are Central Time or on the East Coast, so lucky you, it's like 8 or 9. Um, but for me, I have to wake up super early to do this. Thank you. I hope everybody's having a super good day too. Yesterday was a very difficult day. I know that it didn't trade exactly how we expected, but today is going super good. Um, I mean, Success at this point, we should be seeing Success pushing below the $9 mark today. Um, which is sort of absurd to see. Actually want to see what the upper Bollinger is on the semiconductors, just so that we have that exact level. Okay, today is going to be a big day. You may not be able to see it on your screen right now, but I'm going to write it here. Where did my note go? I had my note and it disappeared. That means our upside today is still basically a whole, $7 from here, $8 from here on semiconductors. Today is going to be a very, very, very bullish day. Okay. Um, yeah. So let's just make sure we're watching the VVIX and everything, watching the HIG, just making sure we truly get the price action we need. Um, Liquid is buying upward as well, ignore all the drawings, but we're looking for this cup specifically to form, and it is starting to form right there. 5-minute time frame showing a lot of buying. Okay, so let me go back to the SPY. We're nearing the top of this cup. Um, we should basically push to like this 737-ish range and then have a small rejection. 4 a.m. for you? Oh, that's tough. That is very tough. Okay, so we're still seeing the VVIX pulling down slightly. Again, we're just kind of waiting for this cup top to play out, or this cup to fill. From that cup filling, build a little bit of bearish structure. Very likely that'll give us room at the 20 MA to take calls to the upside. Now, that's still not the most primed entry that I look for. So just keep that in mind. It would be ideal if we could pull all the way down to the lower Bollinger without invalidating this cup um, to take calls to the upside. Now, when we hit the top of this cup here, I am going to take some profits on some of my 0 DTEs. Okay. Um, Very likely I'm going to be pushing that into contracts for next week and for some 0 DTEs when we get this push downward in our handle. Okay, so that's kind of the plan. This way we don't end up getting burned if we get some sort of bad news sentiment, something like that. But use some of this opportunity to take profit when we do hit the top of this cup. Um, Again, I would absolutely hate for us to squander that, and we don't want to be missing that opportunity. So just be very, very patient, wait for the top of that cup to hit. Again, we really should push towards that, basically the 737, and then build bearish structure. The upper Bollinger on the 5-minute time frame is at the 736.50, so we have plenty of room to have that upward push. Okay, from that upward push, you should be hedging some puts. Okay, so if you have calls for next week like I do, this is a super opportune time to take a couple positions against them. Um, you know, ride that downside. Will also have some room on a 0 DT put. Um, Currently the room on that will be up about $1.50. Once we fully finish our upward push here, which I'm waiting for. Should be any minute now. Got my hand on the sell button, just waiting. Semiconductors pushing to the 510. Continue to just be very, very patient here. Let this upper Bollinger actually push. Just gonna circle back to semiconductors and everything though really quick. Still pushing in there. Let's check QQQ. QQQ did its push and is giving us the ability to pull down slightly now. So we're gonna have to catch this SPY cup top very, very quickly here. Check the VVX. It's at 94.10. Yeah, we be patient. We wait for that cup top. We still have semiconductors pushing into the 510. Okay, this should be our push here. So let's get our 37 or 737 already. Get us our exit and entry. Semiconductor still pushing. Yeah, we should be getting our exit here. Just patience, patience, patience. Because that extra 40 cents is going to matter, okay? So you're looking for that to really push. Just want to keep my eyes on the VVIX. It's at 94.11, so it did tick upward a cent. Semiconductors still very close to this 510 range. We're just watching it very closely. It is building a micro cup and handle. So we should see our upward push within the SPY prior to fully starting to pull down. Now I do want to look at QQQ as well. QQQ 1 minute time frame could be building a head and shoulders here. So we will watch that closely. Starting to push up a little bit. Let's check SPY again. Again on SPY, I really want to hit the top of this cup basically to the penny before we start really repositioning things. Um, I think that if it doesn't hit, that's going to turn extremely bearish. But um, I'm really not expecting that to happen. I'm fully expecting that to push upward and hit. So exercising a lot of patience here. It's not easy. Semiconductors. See if that's the handle that we're looking for. If we get the additional push upward here in semiconductors, that will secure us that cup top within SPY. So watching that very closely. So currently, on these SOXS 10 puts, I am putting a sell order at the, let's put it at the 61. Okay. So we're gonna put a sell order at the 61. And I'm not selling all of them. I have a ton of contracts, so I'm just selling about 80% of them. Those have not cleared yet. That was just me placing the order in. Um, so they should sell out at that 61 range once we hit the top of this cup. Again, I do want to be taking a little bit of profits on some of these positions at the top of this cup. Okay, here's our push. Okay, here we go. And this is when we start taking profits on some stuff, everybody. Not only taking profits, but setting up some puts against it. Okay. Now for the puts, because I am in the uh success puts for next week, I'm probably going to try to take a couple success calls against that. Okay. I'm just clearing out a whole ton of these 0 DT positions here. Um, just soaking up a lot of this profit, not covering them all, or not closing them all out, but again, closing a decent majority of them. Because again, all of our symbols have pushed the top of their cups here. Um, we are expecting some downside. Okay, so everybody, please make sure you're really listening to me when I'm saying that. Um, really position yourself for some potential downside here. Okay. So against our 10 puts on success, I'm just going to take the 10 calls. Okay. And I'm just going to take a couple of them. They are selling for $50 each. That's a very cheap hedge when our positions are up literally a boatload. Very good day. Very, very, very good day. Um, yeah. And now we're starting to form this bearish structure. Um, we do have the liquidity to start forming a head and shoulders here on the SPY on this cup. So we should get our downside. And again, from the downside, we will use both the 20 mile range today. So I'm going to circle this with purple just to signify that. And the lower Bollinger. The lower Bollinger will be pulling upward when we start pulling downward slightly. Very likely the lower Bollinger hits kind of in that range, which would create a very, very, very quality call buying opportunity to the upper Bollinger today. So that's kind of what we're waiting for here. Um, very, very, very good day, everybody. Hopefully everybody should be having some profits right now. I don't know why. Hold on. I need to fix something here. Time frame. Oh, I'm sorry. I need to adjust this really quick, everybody, so that we could properly see it. Okay, so now the time frame is adjusted. Okay, so again, now at this point, we're simply just looking for the short opportunity um to create the handle on these cups. Okay, That's all we're trying to do at this point. Just form the handles. So with that said, we should be seeing an upward tick in the VVIX, which we actually are. It's up to the 94.47. So I want to delete this head and shoulders because this is actually completing a cup here. But this should start giving us our handle within the SPY, GKQ, semiconductors. So there's going to be a lot of time um, for me to just talk now, since we're basically just waiting for our positions to take at this point. Um, those calls did awesome. If anybody has any questions about anything, you know, stock market related, whatever, I'll be happy to go over it. Oh, is it finally gonna do a stock split? Hold on. Oh, I guess that already did. Nice. Very cool. I remember when this was $3. We missed that one. Gosh, looks like it wants to head back stairs. It's looking very, very good. Okay, everybody, I'm gonna take like, I don't know, between a 2 or 5 minute break. I need to get some coffee. I need to unwind a second because I'm just all worked up. Today was a huge win today. I mean, today was massive for me. Can't really say much more than that other than today was huge. So I am gonna take like 5 minutes. Time is it? 7:08. So that means it's 10:08. So I'll be back around. It's Okay. Good time for a coffee break, everybody. Good time to grab something to eat or whatever you want to do. But we will be right back. This is what we're looking for today. I want to drag the expectations into here just so that we are on the same page here. Okay? So I'll be right back in a few minutes, everybody. Right now is the perfect time to take spy puts. Again, with this being the top of a cup, we fully expect bearish structure. Um, I always short the top of cups. Yesterday I couldn't because I had to get my daughter ready for school, and because of that, it ended up costing me quite a bit. Always short the top of a cup. Okay. Look for that bearish structure, and then you take the short position. And how you look for this bearish structure, I didn't want to do that one. I want to do that one. Is you can go to the 1 minute time frame and see, okay, is there anything starting to form here that is, looking bearish? Are we starting to see, um, some form of structure that is breaking from the bullish upside? Well, so far, yes. We have a left shoulder here. We have potentially a head forming here. I don't really see bullish structure formed in here. It's not like we have a cup formed. Um, it's not like we're trying to form a cup and handle at the top of this. So look for that bearish structure. Very likely it's going to come in the form of building out that right shoulder. And from that, you take the short position to the 20 mo. Um, if the VVIX and everything is still absolutely blaring when we get to the 20 mod, then that means that potentially we could be heading down much further on the day. Um, but that's why you short the top of a cup always. It's just what you do. It's also why I really like trading into cups because obviously we're super bullish on the day, but we're not only getting the call weight, we're getting the put weight, and then we're going to get the call weight up again. So we get to ride this the entire way. And it's not just like how people expect trading to be where you just kind of gamble on one side, right? We're following the actual price action and just trading the price action. Um, so that's my spiel about that. Anyway, I'll be right back in like 5 minutes, everybody. I need to take my medication. I need to get some coffee or I'm gonna turn into a schizo. So I'll be right back. Thank you all for watching so far. We've been absolutely kicking butt the last few days. I know yesterday was a little difficult, but we're gonna keep on it, everybody. All right, I am back, everybody. Let's go ahead and take a look at everything. Do have a little bit of a cup formed here, which could give us a handle to the upside, but I'm still looking for air structure at the top of this cup, because even on the 5 minute time frame, we do see that the 20 mile has quite a lot of room to be taken. Currently, the 20 mile on the 5 minute time frame is at the 735.63. So, that's roughly a dollar movement downward, dollar and a half ish, give or take, um, ish towards that 737 range. So, again, I'm still looking for this 20 mod to be hit, because even with this being pushed into the upper Bollinger here, so assuming this cup and handle plays out, get an additional upper Bollinger push, I still expect to take puts down to the 20 mod, because that's the trade that's open and available anyway. You don't continue buying calls when you're in the upper Bollinger. That's just not how you make money trading. Um, so we just have to be very patient here to wait for either this bear structure to really fully fill out or for this upper Bollinger to be pushed again. But I'm still holding on to my puts. Don't close your puts out. Zero reason to close those out. We still have some calls going. Now, while I was muted, I did take a couple different positions here. I took some of the 40 calls on TMF for exact dates for August 21st. Okay. Now, the reason why I'm taking calls on TMF, and just to kind of preface this is like a hyper version of TLT. So this is based on treasury yields. This is the bond market. Um, yes, I'm expecting the market to push pretty hard in terms of equities. However, we're seeing oil volatility starting to drop, and when oil volatility drops, the treasury yields drop. When treasury yields drop, the actual weight of the bonds gain weight, which means that TLT, TMF, all these bond instruments will gain weight. Now, I have the August 21st calls, the 40 strike. What that will do is pretty much put us well in the money, because currently the price is at 35.79. So we just have to get through this range, which I have very large confidence we will. And we have to do that by August. So let's properly draw that. Okay. Now, one thing that I want to show you, or I want you to look at, I guess, as well, is what is this starting to form? This is starting to a cup. Okay. At this cup, we also see double bottom. So if we're going to be seeing our oil volatility dropping over the next few months, we should be seeing weight being pushed into TLT/TMF. So I like these calls a lot. They're going to very, very likely make a lot of money. Okay. Another position I took is for UDN, which is basically shorting the dollar. So this is the FX market more so. Um, what I took were the 19 calls for September 18th, and they're fairly cheap. I think the average price right now is like 0.13. So, uh, they're very cheap. Um, but with oil volatility dropping, with the treasury yields dropping, And with Bank of Japan needing to do a massive, massive, massive intervention, we should be seeing the dollar dropping quite a bit. And what that means on the DXY, excuse all these drawings, but we should be heading back down this 95 range and below that. I'm looking towards the 92, okay? And that's by September. So for UDN, back to UDN, that's only us having to basically get a 60-cent upside, okay? Um, yes, that will be breaking some of the past trend. However, this is still the conditions I've been looking for to kind of go long within UDN. So I like that position as well. Um, I did add some GDXY shares. So this is just a weekly gold dividend. Um, I do believe that precious metals will be gaining a lot of weight. Uh, especially with oil volatility dropping again, I fully expect gold to not only hit. It's funny. I want to circle back to this picture in a second, but not only do I expect gold to hit that um 6,500 range, but I still have full expectations for this 6,300 in the end. So, um there's a ton of weight for gold. Now, one thing I was highlighting on this chart were the lower Bollinger moves. How actually once you get to below the 20 MA, start getting to this lower Bollinger on gold and silver, that usually you see massive buying, and that still remains true even with this recent move. Now, for silver, we did take calls yesterday. We took the 100 calls, or hold on, took the 100 calls for September 30th. Okay. Um, Again, we fully kind of expect the same thing here. Expect to pull back up towards the all-time high, which the all-time high on silver was basically what, 110. So that should run well into the money as well. Now I want to look at SPY here. SPY is still pushing upward. With this pushing into the upper Bollinger, not on the 5-minute time frame yet. Once we get the push on the 5-minute time frame, I will go ahead and add a few more of those short positions. But overall, we're just kind of waiting. Now, VVIX here is still pulling upward. Okay, this means that big money is expecting a downside. So make sure you're not ignoring that. Okay, big money is expecting a slight downside from here. Um, Very likely that downside's probably going to be, um, you know, towards that 20 mile, which is currently at the 735.80. So roughly a whole $2 downside. Once they push it up towards the upper Bollinger here, though, it'll be closer to $2.50 downside. So fairly large downside is very much expected here, especially when we're seeing the VVIX continuing to buy upward. That's telling us almost to a T that dealers are preparing for some form of downside. Big still looking good though, so bullish on the day. Um, so we will take the puts down to 20 mil, and from the 20 mil, add further calls for the upper Bollinger. So that's the plan, everybody. Go ahead and look at chat. Yes, my SPY positions are 0 DT. The UDN are the calls for. Let me go ahead and just type it out. So they're the DN September 19 cold. Then I'm just gonna post all the ones that I bought in here. Okay, so that's kind of what we got going on right now. And the reason why I took the 735s is because the 20 mile is at the 735. Yes, it's some sense above it, but that doesn't matter too much right now. Um, should hit that 20 mile range, and then you know we go into the next leg up. Now let me go ahead and look at some of those questions that were in chat. Okay, so precious metals, I kind of just went over it, even though I didn't. I see a ton of upside to them. Uh, the reason why they're dropping just a little bit is because we still have oil volatility within the system. You can see that with oil pushing upward today just slightly, that will almost have a pretty much one-to-one with gold pushing, excuse me, pushing downward. So oil and gold pretty much run inverse together, precious metals and oil anyway, which means that we are expecting oil to come down, um, which makes a lot of these precious metal positions really good. I'm waiting for UAMI, which is a US antimony company, is a precious metal. Um, I'm waiting for this to push below the 20 mile on the daily time frame. It's doing that currently, so technically it's within that buying opportunity. But the upside on this is pretty dang large as well. It hit an all-time high of 1971. So technically, we could be seeing, a whole $9 to $10 a share upside. So I'm not buying in yet, but that is something I am wanting to buy into. SPY, we're starting to see our downside. So let's go ahead. I can that. Um, that. I can that. Okay, so we're simply looking for our 20 mile here. The 20 mile is at the 735.80. With this cool tool, actually just mark it in here. So that's kind of what we're looking for our exit. Okay. Yes. I'll explain that in just a second here because there is a actual definitive answer to that. Um, but let me go over what Shane asked. So Shane asked, was this just a bounce on bad news warfare? How do we know that we wouldn't have kept falling today? Sold my 1 DT at the end of yesterday for a big loss. Today they would have been very green. That's a super good question. And kind of difficult to answer because the stream yesterday, we went over a lot of this, in lifetime, but we were seeing a lot of very, very concerning divergences within the stocks where we had our and just give me 1 second. I want to turn on my heater before I jump into explaining this because I'm absolutely freezing right now. Yes, I'm still holding some of my socks puts. I sold a majority of them. Um, I didn't sell any of the ones for next week, okay, but just the 0 DTE ones. Um, did sell a majority of them when we hit the top of the cup. From the top of the cup, again, I am looking for some downside, so I do keep a little bit of my calls going just in case we continue pushing upward and don't get that downside. Um, kind of a hedge to the positions we opened at the top of the cup. Um, but I'm expecting those to gain even further weight today. So, oh, I'm not worried about this hantavirus. Anyway, let me turn on my heater really quick because I want to explain yesterday a little bit more because yesterday was actually a very difficult day, but a very important day. All right, I got the heater on, so hopefully I don't forget about it. I don't want to roast. Um, anyway, let's talk about yesterday. Yesterday was a really difficult day because we had many different conflicting signals. We had our high yield corporate bonds selling off a bit. We had the VVIX holding I believe it was that 92.80 range to 93 range for a majority of the day, and then it ended up ticking up towards that 94, um, which did give us some expectations of, okay, things are getting a little bearish here. We're not seeing a lot of those upside signals. However, this is why we use our moving averages. Okay. Um, the market likes to gravitate towards moving averages and the Bollingers as well. The Bollingers are basically just an extended moving average of the 20 mall. Um, however, with our moving averages, we have different iterations of how many sessions are for each moving average. So for example, the 5 mall, that's, 5 iterations of whatever time frame you're on. So for the daily time frame, that says that every 5 days we should be expecting that level. Okay. Um, we've already tested that level within the last 5 days. Okay, we've tested that level on May 5th and May 6th. Okay, so that tells me, okay, we don't really need to test that level for another few days. Now, what's above us then if we really don't need to head downward? Well, we have the upper Bollinger. Okay. Well, the upper Bollinger gives us a very specific mechanic, and this is also going to answer someone else's question at the same time. Um, about how do I know if we're going to continue pushing into next week or not. Um, also be aware we are starting to get close to our exit, so just keep your eyes on that and don't let me miss that. Our exit's coming up very soon, everybody. Um, but with that said, the upper Bollinger has a very specific mechanic where with the upper Bollinger, and Yesterday it was at the 736, if I remember correctly. So just taking yesterday into account, the 20 mall or the 5 mall was at the, I want to say the 726. We had the upper Bollinger at the 736. So that meant that either we were going to pull down all the way to the 728 or below, to really test that 5 mile range, or we were going to head to the upper Bollinger. Well, we already tested the 5 mile as I went over, and so we have the upper Bollinger above us. And the upper Bollinger gives us a very unique mechanic where if we secure that level, it is expected to take that level and close at or above it. So if we were to take the upper Bollinger yesterday, which yesterday was very bullish until we had the Iran news. Okay, let's be clear. Yesterday was extremely bullish until the Iran news came out, and then everything started to sour. Um, but even with us closing today, again, we are closing where we closed yesterday. We've already been sitting at this 5 mile for a long time. We're not pushing under it. So what are we gonna push down $20 on news of whatever was going on yesterday? Likely not. The dealers have been trying to aim to the upside, which means that we should secure that day one upper Bollinger move. We didn't do it yesterday, which that for me gave me a lot of conviction that this is that the selling yesterday was just a lot of liquidity stealing. And I went over that very specifically during the day as well, that um very likely they're trying to take everybody's calls. I talked about it from a dealer perspective, of what I would want to do as the dealer is that I would want to drop the market there, hold it at that basically 729, 730 range, really shake everybody out of their calls for next to nothing, and then, run it up after. I was expecting a push, toward the end of the day yesterday. Um, so today wasn't really a surprise for me. Now, with the upper Bollinger today being at the 739, or excuse me, the 738.51, that means that if we're going to be continuing bullish on the day, we will push above that 739 for the close. Okay, and we will close above that level. Now, the upper Bollinger mechanic also has a different aspect to it is the day two. The day two of the upper Bollinger, you should be expecting a higher high. So day one upper Bollinger, secure the level, hold it. Day two, receive the higher high into downward consolidation. So that means that come Monday, um, I don't think there's any holidays on Monday, I'm not sure, but come Monday, we should be seeing the higher high, which very likely is going to take us all the way to that 730 or 741, 742 range. And then we could start consolidating back downward towards our 5 mile. So that gives us the upper Bollinger push. And with the upper Bollinger, just like how we trade the 5 mile upper Bollinger, we short the upper Bollinger. Um, on the day two, the upper Bollinger push on the daily time frame. That's basically when we start cutting a lot of our calls and we start really shorting towards the 20 mile. Because again, we haven't tested the 20 mile in over a month now. The 20 mile is, saying that 20 trading day iterations, you should be seeing this level. It's been over what, 30, 32, something like that. Um, so we're very much due for retesting this level after this push. So that's kind of why I had a very, very large expectation of us having a major, major push today and even into yesterday as well. So you see, and that's a great that's something I didn't even notice, Scott, is that the VIX and the VVIX climbing and pushing into the upper Bollinger on the daily, um, that tells us that we should be expecting the opposite direction. So, um, I wouldn't consider it luck. I saw a lot of liquidity farming yesterday out of dealers, which, you know, basically just means dealers are trying to take everybody's calls. Um, and that's how I saw it. Hold on, let me turn off my heater. It's like super hot in here now. All right, I'm back. So did we invalidate the downside? No, not entirely. And I'll show you why. Let me go ahead and hide the moving averages besides the 20 month. So one thing that okay, let me step back here before I kind of ruin the fun. Okay. We're looking at this right now and we're seeing, okay, we went to the upper Bollinger. We pulled very close to the 20 month, but we didn't get our level, kind of what the heck? Um, why did that happen? We're not done yet. Okay. We have this very nice head and shoulders building here, and this is going to the 1 minute time frame. From this very nice head and shoulders, we will be getting a push downward. Okay. Now that push downward can be pretty dang large, okay, because this is building bearish liquidity at the top of this cup. Okay. Now I'm gonna put another square here, and I do apologize if my screen looks like a mess for a moment, but this is your selling structure right now. Okay. We haven't even sold yet. Um, this is still just building the liquidity to sell. And from the selling structure, we can take this entire gap to the downside. Okay. So you see how that's aligning with a very specific and wonderful level, our lower Bollinger. So very likely this is going to be a massive shakeout. Okay. They're going to shake people out of positions, catch that lower Bollinger move, and then massive calls to the upside. Okay, and that's why we always have to be super, super, super patient with our entries and exits. Um, because again, as a technical trader, without all the drawings and everything, when you're trading the 5 minute time frame, you have to pretend that there is zero sentiment going on in the world, that world events don't matter, nothing is mattering in the moment. The only thing that matters is, are you taking puts above the upper Bollinger, or are you taking calls below the lower Bollinger? If you're doing that, if you're getting to your 20 mall, then you are properly trading. Okay. This is literally what trading floors teach you, and that is how you have to think about it. Okay. Now, say we push up here again, which potentially we can. potentially this is building a really nice cup here. Well, what happens at the top of a cup? We again expect bearish structure. So this is all still alluding to, yes, we absolutely can pull downward. Um, just the levels might change slightly. So for example, obviously our 20 MA is pulling up, um, and it's even starting to pull up above. Well, no, not yet. It's very close though. It's starting to pull up above that last exit area. Well, from a technical side, this still didn't give us our proper exit. So very likely the market's going to try to give us a very quality exit. Um, so it's always better to just be very, very, very patient, allow the positions to do what they need to do, and trade purely technical. Now, yes, news and sentiment and everything can absolutely change directions, um, but try not to think about that as you're beginning your trading and as you're really learning to stay consistent. Because if you can learn these rules that I just said within the last 5 minutes, you will become a consistent trader. You will be winning on, like 80% plus of your trades, which 90% of the world cannot do. Okay, there's literally hundreds of thousands of traders out there who cannot even get 0% on their account every single day. Okay. Um, Focus on what's very, very, very consistent. And, you know, if a position has to burn to do that, let it burn. But you keep your rules golden and your trades will go very well. This does apply to every time frame. So that's kind of the really beautiful thing about how the moving averages and Bollingers work is that we could go to even the 1 second time frame, which, here's the 1 second time frame, right? It's like, wow, that's a mess to look at. But is it? We're seeing structure, seeing structure, we're seeing structure, seeing structure, additional structure. This is trading almost to a T to how your time frame will trade or how the algorithms will trade on any time frame. Okay, here's an inverse cup forming. We're about to go down. Should reject off that 20 mall. But again, that was a call opportunity. Now it's a put opportunity. Retest of the 20 mall here. If we get a rejection, we get head and shoulders. No rejection. That turns into a cup. From that cup, we have a handle. Top of the cup should be looking for a short downward to the 20 mile, which that's hitting. Okay, 20 mile hit at the lower Bollinger. Lower Bollinger becomes call opportunity. So you can see, and this is literally on the 1 second time frame, and we're able to very, very accurately chart this. Okay. 90% traders cannot do what I just did. It's taking me a long time to do that. Okay. Um, it doesn't matter what time frame you're on. The algorithms trade the exact same way. Okay, they're always going to be trying to build the exact same type of structures. They're always going to be trying to go from the lower Bollinger to the upper Bollinger, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. Okay, so let's look at the 1 hour. Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. Um, Seeing how we have pushed the upper Bollinger, We generally do expect, and I do apologize for all the drawings. I wish I could draw without on a different screen sometimes, but we have the upper Bollinger pushed. Okay, now with the hourly time frame, we don't fully expect the 2-bar push, but with every single upper Bollinger push, we are still trying to look for that 2-bar push. Okay, whether it's the monthly time frame, weekly time frame, daily time frame, 1 second time frame. Okay, so are you correct to think about that as that? Absolutely. Um, I think that's extremely valid in terms of trying to target a very, very primed short position to the downside. Okay. Um, and I'll show a couple examples here. But we have these 2 bars right here, 2 bars right here as well. Doesn't look like a higher high, but this is a higher high just by a few cents. 2-bar push, 2-bar push, but not exactly a higher high. You get a little bit of a higher high. And here you get the secure the level, higher high, start to consolidate, grab that upper Bollinger, higher high, grab the upper Bollinger into the higher high, grab the upper Bollinger into the higher high. So you could see how it still likes to trade very, very similar. Okay, so is it fair to assume you're going to see a higher high here? Yeah, it's very fair to assume, but that's why we start looking at some of our other time frames here as well. Is this forming a cup and handle to the upside? Well, if it is, then are you going to get that higher high you're expecting? Absolutely. Um, so yeah, just we have to trade very structurally, even if sometimes those trades don't work out perfect. Um, Trading structurally is how you make consistent money. Okay, because kind of when I was going over that 1 second time frame, um, if I had the ability to trade that quickly, I would be able to trade, you know, the exact same type of style I'm trading within the 1 minute time frame, the 5 minute time frame, and that's what the algorithms do. They're all trading the exact same patterns. They're all trading the exact same way. Um, all we do here is just try to really replicate what they're doing and follow what they're doing so that we can make quality profit. I don't look up, so this is something that I really can't recommend, um, but it's something that I personally do. I never look at my positions. Okay. I never look at my positions because I entirely focus on levels and technicals. So, for example, we took the puts up here. We also took some puts down here too. I'm still holding those puts, and I'm fine with holding those puts. They're probably super red right now. I have no care in the world about them. Okay. And the reason why is because I want to trade the technicals. Okay. I want to trade the levels that hit. Um, and I do have calls against it. Okay. So if we continue, going crazy and pushing upward, then, eventually we will cut these puts. Um, but do we need to yet just yet? No. We still have this very strong level available to us. Okay. It has been moving up. That's something, we do have to contend with, but it doesn't mean we give up on the position either. Now, if the position is just entirely running the opposite way, and one thing we're seeing is that the calls are actually running opposite to the VVIX here. So the VVIX is telling us that there's a short opportunity happening. Okay. Dealers are hedging insurance for the downside. You would not do that unless there's downside coming. Okay. This is literally the biggest money on the planet. Um, they do not make mistakes. Okay. Not often. Okay. Not often. Um, you have a lot of money hedging right here. Okay. For some sort of downside. So could this be our potential, $3 downside that we talked about earlier? Yeah, absolutely. Potentially we can go all the way to the upper Bollinger, all the way to the lower Bollinger. There's really nothing preventing that because that would still be bullish for us. That wouldn't invalidate this cup at all. Um, the lower Bollinger would probably be about there at that point. It'd still give us a whole, dollar, dollar and a half worth of safety before even having to really worry about it. So hopefully that makes sense. I know that isn't the best answer because I know there's a lot of people that say that, oh, you should cut your position after an hour, you should cut it after a certain percentage or anything. I look entirely for structure and I look entirely at the technicals. Um, Even if that ends up costing me a position, I would rather cost that position and follow my rules to the T than break my rules and just kind of vibe trade. Because that's what a lot of people do. They vibe trade. They trade on emotions. They trade on, oh well, geez, this is pushing against my puts. My puts are starting to go red. I'm losing money now. Oh my God, what am I gonna do? Don't worry about that. Yeah, it sucks to lose money, but focus on the technicals. Okay. We short the upper Bollinger and we target the 20 mil. Simple as that. And if you will play by the technicals, and I know it's a little more difficult with a smaller portfolio, okay, because it's like you don't have the money to burn. You don't have, it's not easy to sit here and have $100 put, run down to 40 bucks or something. I get that. But this is based on a very consistent strategy that I've been using for years. Um, we have people in the chat that do this each and every day that make absolutely killer money. Um, this is back tested. Okay, so this has actual substance to it. Um, and you can go over any time frame, any chart, and you'll see that these rules that we have set stay true. Okay, so focus on consistency rather than, oh my gosh, am I losing money exactly in this moment? Focus on the rules. If your rules are good, your account will grow. Okay. Yeah, and that's some of it too, is that you have to only risk what you're willing to lose. But, everybody could say that, but what are you willing to lose? You know, for me, I don't want to lose a single penny. Um, I hate losing. I hate losing money. Um, but that's also a big reason why I choose not to look at positions and choose to just focus entirely on the technicals. Um, because I don't need to be stressing about that. I just need to be stressing on, are my positions actually hitting my levels or not? Or did I mess up and how can I improve better next time? Um, I can promise you if you will try to keep that mindset, your trading will improve 100-fold. Okay. Um, I mean, we've literally have traders gone from losing for years to they start following these rules and all of a sudden they're weeks consistently straight without losses. So follow your rules, try to keep emotion and sentiment as far out of the picture as possible. And I promise you your trades will improve. Just With a smaller portfolio, you do have to take smaller positions. That's just kind of, the unfortunate evil of it. Those positions will grow in time. You will be able to open more positions in time, but you just have to allow the technicals to do what they need to do. Now, let's swing back to the VVIX because this is still pushing up on the day. Okay. Um, this is telling us dealers are hedging for a major downside here. See the HIG still not massively buying. It's been buying a little bit. It's closed a little bit of this cup, farming a handle, but we want this up all the way to the 80.33 today. Um, and we still have a while to go on that. Semiconductors needs to build bearish structure. Right now we have a little bit of a cup going there. So still waiting for some of this bearish structure to continue outward. Um, but again, we have our volatility picking up massively, massively, massively right now, which is telling me that very likely dealers are not even trying to target the 20 ma, but they're trying to target the lower Bollinger. Very likely to shake people out of their calls before, running it to the moon, basically. So ideally, we're going to really try to be patient for this lower Bollinger today to pack on some more calls. But these are the type of calls where we're going to be able to buy cheap SPACs calls that could potentially run from literally like $50 into like thousands of dollars. And I've had those happen before. This is the type of day to do that. So we're going to be focusing very, very hard on that. I need to go say bye to my daughter really quick, so just give me a couple minutes, everybody. But stick around. There's a absolute boatload of money to be made today. I'm back, everybody. So there's an actual mathematical um, solution to how large your sizing should be, but it's not feasible for 99% of traders because unfortunately many of us are starting out with smaller portfolios. Um, so mathematically, what do you have to do to be consistent in terms of flipping a coin to win? you have to have a 51% win rate. Okay. Now, if you had an account with, let's say, $100, okay, how much do you have to bet for each bet to end up overall winning and not being in a loss and not overcommitting to a loss? 2%. Okay, 2% of your portfolio. Okay. Um, Now we flip the odds a little bit more in our favor because we're not flipping a coin. Our odds aren't 51% win rate to 49% loss. It's a lot closer to like 87 to 91% to the downside flip. Okay. Um, but you should still try to keep that 2% rule active because the thing is that you are going to have losing trades. It doesn't matter how good of a trader you are. Um, and this is coming from someone who trades, 24/7. I've traded the forex market, I've traded futures, I've traded bonds, I've traded everything. Um, you still want to keep your sizing small because all it takes is one bad trade to put you, you know, in the dirt. And I've had that happen before, okay? And let's kind of talk about that. Um, Last year, I was shorting semiconductors at the top of an upper Bollinger, um, but it was also a lot of sentiment based too. I was feeling very emotional about the trades. I was not fully listening to my rules. Um, Oracle ended up having a $500 billion deal overnight, and my position that was literally almost 6 digits turned into Play-Doh overnight. I mean, it was very, very, very hard. Um, and I also lost very large on UFIX in that exact same way. Um, which is why I try not to focus on a lot of very, very heavy positions anymore. Um, it caused me to really think just mathematically. How much do I have to bet to win consistently? Well, for me, that's 2%. Okay. Um, I know 2% of my portfolio might be very different than 2% of many of your portfolios. Um, if you are on a smaller portfolio, then what I suggest is try to use more of the leveraged ETFs, but in a very smart way. So, for example, sort of like those Soxus puts that we took. They were very, very cheap positions, and the conviction to the upside or downside in UVIC or within Soxus, I mean, was very, very high. Okay. We took those positions at a very nice time, and our conviction within that trade was very large. But if I had an account that had, I don't know, let's say $500,000, how many of those positions would I still want to take? You know, still about 2%. Um, which for that type of account, that's really not going to be a whole lot. Um, so maybe I have to bump that up to 5%. That just means you have less room to lose, because you have less flips in that coin before you're out of money. Okay, because with the way the world works, unfortunately, and on the 5-minute time frame, by the way, we did get our 20 mile. So technically this is a put exit here. If you're, expecting further upside, which I really do, this could be the put exit and the call entry, but for me, I really want to be patient for this lower Bollinger. I think that the market is going to try to aim for that today. prior to heading upwards. So I'm gonna be patient here, but with that said, um, no, we're not flipping coins, you know. No, what we do is not gambling. Okay, and I hate to use gambling terms with it, but the more coin flips you can afford, the better your odds are going to be. Okay, especially when you learn to start being consistent with being able to pull that coin flip from being a 50-50 to being, you know, closer to how it is for me right now, where it's like an 87 to 91. Um, I know that when I flip that coin, most of the time I'm gonna win. Uh, will it happen every single time? No. And I need to understand that I can't put 100% of my portfolio on a trade that I think is gonna win when I can still lose. Okay. The market's the market. The market will sometimes give us price action that goes completely against what our expectations were, even though we might have traded it the correct way. Um, Keep more coin flips available to yourself, and your portfolio will grow. Keep more coin flips and focus on consistency. Okay. Don't vibe trade, don't trade emotionally. And I can almost promise you, even the most struggling traders out there will find success. You have to remember there's businesses, actual businesses that just pull people pretty much off the street, and I don't mean off the street, but out of college, um, to learn this exact thing. Okay, to learn exactly what I'm trying to show you here. Only except they don't understand structures as much. Usually they teach these people follow a head and shoulders or follow an inverse head and shoulders and trade that pattern. Okay. By trading those patterns, they're usually going to have a win rate of about 60 to 70%. Well, does that make them a consistently winning and successful trader? Absolutely. As long as they keep their position sizing correct. Okay. Um, so that's the mathematical way about this. Yes, the levels will adjust. So something to remember with trading is that nothing will ever stay constant. Okay. And that means everything. Our levels, our prices, everything throughout the day is going to be adjusting. And we do have to adjust for that. Okay. For example, it's like our 20 mile here. Originally, when we were targeting it, it was all the way back at the 735.85. Well, now it's all the way almost up to the 736 or 737, excuse me. It's currently at the 736.71. So we do have to adjust for our levels. We do have to adjust for our prices, but just focus on still sticking to the rules, okay? Because that's what's very, very key here. Now, what I'm looking for this entry on today, I'm looking for this lower Bollinger here on the 5 minute time frame. This is going to be my major call entry, and I actually just want to fully write this out because this is extremely important. So I'll put that there so it doesn't get in the way of the text. On this call entry, we want 0 DTEs and the 7 DT, 5 DT, whatever it is. Next Friday, essentially. Where'd my text go? There it is. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. Okay, this is as specific as it's going to be for the day. And this, based off of everything I've been seeing, is the move. And I do want to look at the VVIX and everything. It is starting to pull back. Okay. Um, so with us actually starting to have that sell down, I do believe that this is going to be a major call entry. Now, what calls do I want on this? There's going to be a couple that I want. I want to target, hold on just one second. So for the actual calls, I will be buying the 737 0DTs on SPY. Okay. For TQQQ, I will be adding the 76 calls for next week. Okay. You can add the 75 call. It's, it's going to do very well as well. Um, but that's just preference because I'm seeing the upper Bollinger push occurring. That means that I'm expecting a higher high. So I'm gonna put the next week 75 or the 76 strike call limit order in. Hold on. And I'm gonna put that in at point or 1.81. Now I'm also gonna take a few of the 75 calls. Again, you don't have to do this. This is just kind of my personal preference here. But I'm putting an order in at the, let's do it at the 213. Okay, because I think that should land very well. So I have a buy order on the 75 call for 213 and the other one for, what was it, 181, something like that. So I'm looking at those. Now I'm also looking at the SOX S 9 puts for next week because we already have a lot of the 10 puts going. We're just going to continue writing those and allowing those to gain a ton of premium. But the 9 puts for next week are still fairly cheap. Currently the spread's between 0.43 to 0.46. I'm going to put an offer in at 0.39 and we will move that up if we get to the lower Bollinger without those filling. Okay, so I'm just trying to target some of these call buys into next week. Um, you should still be holding the SOX S call for next week, the 10 call. Even though, yes, we've been pushing down. These are hedged positions, remember, so this is a hedged tier portfolio, taking those SOX S calls. But the puts that we put in an order for, um, those are basically saying we're expecting semiconductors to go upward. So those are semiconductor calls. So I'm going to type it out in chat. Just one second. And 15th, not 15H. And then TQQQ, 95, call, 13, 6 call. Okay, so that's what I'm waiting for. No, none of those positions have purchased out yet, but we're just simply waiting. And another thing that I am looking at here, and another reason why I do believe we will get our entry on those calls, is we have a very nice inverse cup formed here. From this inverse cup, on the 1 minute time frame, we should be rejecting this 20 MA, which should give us our downside push. Okay. Downside push from here would be into the lower Bollinger. Excuse me. Which would give us, all of our upside that we're expecting. So, looking very, very good, everybody. Now, if you do have any questions, it is a great time because usually I would start getting ready to end my stream here. Um, so I'll be happy to go over any questions, but take a picture of this setup if you need to. But this is the setup what we're looking for today. Now I want to mark this put exit because we did nail that. Just didn't work as well as we wanted it to, but it still did very well. Now these hit calls, I have an average of 10, 10 cents a share, or the point 10. I'm putting a limit order on these at 0.17 because they should sell out at that price once we get our upward push into the upper Bollinger today. So, um, yeah, that's my expectations, everybody. Today should have been an absolutely killer day for everybody. Um, if you have any questions about whatever we're doing, stocks, whatever, right now is a great time. But other than that, I will be posting a video this Sunday. Um, I know that video doesn't get shown to everybody because my channel is smaller, so if you are subscribed, just make sure you have the bell um set to show all notifications and everything so that that video shows up. But each Sunday I go over kind of the expectations, the news, um the earnings and do kind of a weekly preview of what I'm expecting and what I'm seeing. So those videos are really nice to start the week out with, because they can give you, kind of a battle plan before you fully start entering the trading week. Um, but yeah, self-promotion aside, my channel is small. Um, I have been fairly physically ill for the last basically 2 years now, so it's been very, very hard for me to be able to stream and do everything that I've been wanting to do. It hasn't been until April that I've really been able to have this opportunity. But in April, I broke my hand, and then I had to spend a week in the hospital. Um, so April didn't go well. But it's May now. I'm out of my cast and everything, and now I'm really looking to do a lot of the stuff that I've been trying to do for the last 2 years. Um, from starting the classes, from getting the AI built, which the time frame, the time window on all of this is really looking like about 1.5 to 2 months out. So promotion aside, it'd be great for those of you who want to join some of the learning content and everything. Um, if you take the 12.99 basic supporter price now, you will be grandfathered into the future program, because we will be eventually raising the basic price because the basic will cover having the AI, having all the classes, having the content, um, of all the class VODs, being able to um, basically have the online book that I'm writing and everything. So if you're interested in what I do and want to support me, that'd be great. Every penny kind of goes to the future, which the future is I really want to build a trading school. So if you want to support me in doing that, then every penny helps. The expiry on the TQQ is for the 15th of May, so I'm just gonna write that out. The Bollinger settings I have are set to 20 and 2, And just to kind of go over this again, if it'll let me click it. So with the Bollingers, what the length is tracking is how many iterations. Okay, so it doesn't matter the time frame, but we're gonna just discuss this as the daily time frame. This is saying that this is tracking the 20 mile because this is tracking 20-day iterations. What the width is tracking is the volatility move on the upside slash downside. So that's how you get your actual Bollingers. This is a percentage-based move from the level you are tracking. I track the 20 mile because generally the 20 mile is tested once a month, so it's a very neutral value. And the width, this is usually set anywhere between 1 to 3. I set it at 2 because it sets a very, very neutral volatility range where you're still going to be catching the upper Bollinger. It's not going to be super tight, but it's not going to be super loose either. If you set it to 1, you're going to have a far loose or more loose Bollinger. If you set it to 3, they're going to be far more tighter. They might give you better entries, but that's not what I'm looking for out of my Bollingers. I'm looking for my Bollingers to tell me when we're pushing that very specific volatility level, which I forgot the exact percentage, but I believe this is around a 97 to 98% volatility move, with the width set at 2. Yeah, that's a great question. So on days like today where we do see, massive upside, can you target OTMs very easily? Absolutely. Um, and in fact, I might even tack on some of them as well. Targeting the 738 strike would be very ideal because if we're going to get the upper Bollinger, we're not only going to pull that in the money, but we're going to go, very likely to that 739. So on days where there's very large movement, absolutely play some of those OTM contracts. However, I want some really fat contracts. Okay, I want to make today really. I really want to just make today a killer day. So, um, having a couple of those in the money contracts is really gonna elevate the win status of the day. Does cost a lot more to do so. Ex- isn't exactly small port friendly, but overall, I see massive upside today. So, I do want to capture that. Yeah, you're very welcome, everybody. I know I don't talk the best at times, but hopefully I can get my message across well enough that you all understand what I'm saying. But yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting. I've been really enjoying doing the streams. It's been really good for my physical and mental health. So I really look forward to continuing these. And again, I will be doing these streams every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, unless there's a market holiday or something during those days. But Wednesday, I will not be streaming because during Wednesday morning, that's pretty much the only time in the week besides Saturday that I have to spend with my wife. So Wednesday mornings, no streams, but Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, we will have the streams in the morning. And when we eventually get the classes started, again, probably mid-June, those will be on Tuesday and Wednesday around 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The reason why it's so late is because for me that's 5 p.m. Um, and if anything, if you can't watch those live, you can always watch the VOD and they'll be saved for you. So, yeah, any final questions today, everybody, before we all enjoy our weekend and just feel really, really good about our trading? This type of trading makes me feel really good, let me tell you. And it's not like an egotistical type of good. It's that when I learned how to trade like this, and I had to teach myself this, this was very, very difficult to teach myself. But when I got to this point of trading, it was like a huge just key unlocked a massive door to what trading was for me because it's no longer, oh, I'm looking at the MACD and trying to figure out what to do. I'm looking at the RSI, blah blah blah. Oh, what's the short interest on this? What's happening with the shares? All that's just noise. That's just noise. Um, the algorithms are going to trade how the algorithms want to trade, and once you learn that, it's just life changing, absolutely life changing. So, um, it feels great because we've mapped out every move today, and they've gone perfectly. Nothing about today was gambling. Nothing about today was, overly risky. And this is how trading is supposed to feel. And this is really what I try to convey with the stream is that trading is supposed to be relaxing. It's not supposed to be some stressful mess. It's not supposed to be emotional. It's not supposed to be, quote unquote vibe trading. You just follow the signals. You don't listen to your human emotions, and you trade what's available. And we will all be successful in the end of the day. One thing I want to show is that I only have one indicator on my chart. Okay, besides the moving averages and Bollingers, I only look at one indicator, and this is the ADL. You can see I don't use the RSI, I don't use the MACD, I don't use any of that. I only use the ADL. Um, the ADL is all I need because it's telling me if money is moving in or out of the symbol. Today, we're seeing nothing but money pouring into this right now. So we did tap the lower Bollinger. I'm looking for a little bit further downward. And then I'm going to fully engage on those calls and really fully expect a roughly 739, 740 close today. So, um, yeah, I'm gonna stop rambling. Uh, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Thank you all for watching. Um, if you know anybody who wants to learn how to really trade, um, feel free to share my content with them because I would love to teach them. This is the entire reason why I do what I do is because I really love teaching what I do. Once I learned how to do this, it completely changed my life. Um, and I would really like to be able to bring that to as many people as possible. Um, so yeah, I hope everybody has a great weekend. Thank you so much. Um, thank you for the support and yeah, I'm gonna stop rambling. Have a great weekend.